Hello all, I hope you well. Beady beep and all that, right? Okay, let's get going here. Something it was only a short one this morning, hopefully for all of us. There's an important conversation going on online that I think we need to pay attention to, and it involves keeps prisons single sex. It involves women in Scotland. It involves sex matters, and it involves various people who have been pointing things out in regards to a petition which has been doing the rounds, asking for the word sex to be clarified within law to mean birth sex as opposed to legal sex. Now, this is a very interesting field, but it's also a very dangerous one, and it's fraught with problems and complications if we're not careful. First of all, there is an argument that says we need to do this because the nutters are, getting sway in law. The second one says that we don't need to do this because they never meant it not to mean anything but sex, which is immutable as a characteristic and is stamped upon your life because that's what your birth certificate says, whether you like it or not. So this, I'm going to put the links in the doobries, but I want you to have a look at it just so that you can see what do we think should be done. And I'm urging for women in Scotland, sex matters and keep prison single sex and everybody to keep talking about this because I think there are some valid points here that need to be addressed. Keep prison single sex have produced a report. Again, the links are in the doobries for you. This should give you something to read and to try to understand where they're coming from. I'm of a mind that they may be right, and I think the conversation needs to take place. What happens is if we actually get sex to be defined by law as biological sex, it splits sex into two things: biological sex and legal sex. No. Right from the outset, without looking at it in any great depth, if somebody asked you that question, you'd say no. Sex is an immutable, real thing, and it should not become the plaything of the arena of law. This is my concern. Now, I've changed my mind on this. Since reading the stuff that has been produced, I've changed my mind on this, because I thought, yeah, let's get it done. Fuck up. But no, it doesn't do what we think it does. In fact, it does exactly the opposite. I think it's a field day. It'll be a field day, because then everything to do with sex in law is going to need to be defined between whether it's sex in law or sex as a reality. We don't need to do this. I think what we need to do is to get rid of the GRA. Just get rid of it all. Protect it under disability. If you've got that bad a mental condition that you need to hack yourself up, then, put it under disability. We'll look after you. Make sure you're all right when we get it right. We're not going to do, transition it though. So we're just going to make you better, okay? So you can live with who you are. Now, the conversation needs having because it's going to be debated in Parliament, and the worry is that if they do this, it will actually do what I think they attempted not to do in 2004 when they passed the Gender Recognition Act. So this is something we have to think very carefully about. Now, we've got Keep Prison Single Sex for Women in Scotland and Sex Matters. Sex Matters have done the petition, which I've shared and said sign. I think we have to go back to the drawing board and be very careful about this one. We need to look very carefully at what the results of it are going to be. Now, there'll be different arguments legally about what's happening here, but I think the first thing that we should begin with is the fact that there is only one kind of sex, and that's sex that is immutable and real. That's it. The legal fiction that you can change your sex needs to go. Or there needs to be different wording. Somebody pointed out, I think it was Wild Woman Workshop, pointed out that there's other ways to do it. There's other ways to do it. There's other ways to make sure that men don't get to do what men want to do, and LARPing women don't get to do what LARPing women want to do when it comes into gay spaces, or men into women's spaces. So I think what we need to do here is to look carefully at what's the situation, why do we have a situation where this is allowed to happen, and what is the best way of getting it out of the system altogether. We don't want to embed this into a system which just perpetrates the continuing nonsense. We don't, okay? So is that what will happen? It's very difficult here, very difficult. But I think we have to have a conversation because it is a very, very worrying and deeply unsatisfying idea that this will in some way split sex into two things, legal sex and biological sex. There should be no such thing as legal sex. The government of any country, anybody for that matter, does not have the right to obfuscate reality out of existence. They don't have the right to do that. You cannot obfuscate reality out of existence. Very important that you understand this. Now, what we'll do is, if we split the two things, is we'll obfuscate reality out of existence. The GRA needs to be repealed. They need to be removed from the Equality Act. We'll cover it in a different way. And we need to stop this legal fiction in its tracks right from the very beginning. It's the only way forward as far as I can see. Because we do not want to get, if you split, split everything everywhere all at once, isn't it? Suddenly you're in a world with people with sausage fingers. Okay? we can't do this, I don't think. And I've changed my mind. Right? Don't make me right, but I've changed my mind. So I think we all need to have a look. So I'm asking Sex Matters for Women Scotland, everybody else that's involved in this, you know, who has an opinion, transgender trend. Come on, guys. What do we think? Is this actually going to do what we want it to do? I'm worried it's not. I'm worried it's not. And I think what it will do is it actually enables us to keep this legal fiction in law. And I think that's the biggest problem we've got. So, you know, sex is sex, end of story. It was meant in law to mean sex. None of this would have mattered. And I think it probably does cover this already quite clearly in the GRA, which was debated heavily in Parliament in 2004. Take time to have a look, if you will, please, at the arguments. I'll put the links in the doobries, as they say, to have a look at the argument, to read the report from Keep Prison Single Sex, and to ask ourselves the question, are we as a collaborative group moving in the right direction by asking the law to split sex into such a thing as legal sex and real sex? No, this must not happen. And if that's what has happened, in which case you're saying, well, actually, we've already done it, then we need to repeal any law that has done that, because we do not want to give governments or anybody that matter a precedent in which they are allowed to write reality out of existence, because some people don't think sex is immutable and don't think there are only two sexes and need a visit to the funny farm. Right? So that's where I'm at with it. Where are you? It's again a conversation that we need to be having, so I suggest that we have it, for God's sake. Say what you want to say in the comments. I'll tweet this and include everybody that I think. Speak up, folks, please, because I'm confused, okay? And I'm fairly good at this stuff, but if I'm confused, then a lot of other people are confused, and we need an open conversation here in order to get people to understand exactly what is going on, you know? What's happening? Can you all get together on a YouTube and have a convo, perhaps? Something like that? Can we do that? Why not? Yeah, that'd be good, actually. Let's get everybody together and have a chat. What's going on? Right, try and explain it to folks why this is such an issue and why it is important that we get it right. Anyway, that's it. Other than that, become a warrior teacher, buy me a coffee. If you're in Canada or America, or you're up at 1 a.m. British time, right, it's like 6 o'clock in the evening for you, come and be a warrior teacher. We've got a few in the WhatsApp group already. It's on the way. We're hoping to get a few more because it's important, and Canada and people from Canada requested that I do it. So I'm doing it. Now I'm waiting to see if you lot are going to join it. Other than that, go have a good day, all right? But do please give some thought to this, because it requires thought. And so that we can decide really what is the best way forward and how do we eradicate gender identity ideology from the public sphere altogether if we're going to allow them to include a legal fiction as part of the law ad infinitum, forever, which is something I don't want to see. Over to you. What do you want?